Hi everyone, it's Sonia here. It's been a big week for Quebec after last few nail-biting weeks of waiting to see if our hospital system is forced into collapse by the expulsion of all the inadequately vaccinated healthcare workers. Our health minister, Christian Dubé, has backed off and has decided to postpone the date by another month. So I'm going to tell you what happened, what this means for Quebec and maybe the rest of Canada, and where this is possibly heading. Before I start, I just want to say thank you for subscribing and for liking the video, and thank you for your support on Patreon. That helps keep my channel going. And also I have a quick message for you from my partners at My Patriot Supply. Those who know what's coming are using today to prepare. I'm talking about getting your family some high quality emergency food from My Patriot Supply. My Patriot Supply is the nation's leading preparedness company. Now they want to help you by giving you $50 off their popular 4-week emergency food kit. You get 4 weeks of food per person with meals designed to give you more than 2,000 calories a day. By the way, this food stays fresh for up to 25 years in proper storage, so it will be there when you need it. Other food goes bad fast. So don't wait. Go to preparewithtruththegirls.com and claim your 4-week emergency food kit. You'll save $50 per kit if you act now. That's preparewithtruththegirls.com. Don't wait, do it today. So as of just a few days ago, we were informed that there were still tens of thousands of Quebec healthcare workers who were still unvaccinated. 25,800 in the public system as of the 9th of October, plus 30,000 staff in the private healthcare system. So that would have meant that our healthcare sector would have lost 12% of employees in the public sector. Why does it have to be every last healthcare worker? Well, let us remember what our honorable Prime Minister said. No one is safe until everyone is safe.
No one is safe until everyone is safe. No one is safe until everyone is safe.
Let that be our mantra. Literally the day before this was to go into effect, Dubé was reiterating his ultimatum to unvaccinated health network employees. It was like a tense poker game with Dubé holding up a bad hand and maintaining his bluff. He refused to recognize that there would be a break, if not a full-on collapse in services, and continued to talk about reorganization, although he did mention that there would be a contingency plan. The 13th of October, 2 days before this was supposed to go into effect, they decided to delay the mandatory vaccination until November 15th. He finally, I guess, came to his senses and admitted that the risk at the moment is too high and it would be irresponsible to play dice with Quebecers' health. He finally realized that this would be catastrophic, not only for the healthcare system, but probably for his own political career. Analysis of various scenarios in the network showed services would be severely affected across the province if the mandate came into effect Friday as planned. Oh, hey. Oh, can I rewind this ad? Oh, you guys have to see this. This is the ad that they've been running here to encourage the young people to get their shots. She wants to go out. And then... Uh-oh.
Le passeport vaccinal est maintenant exigé pour fréquenter certains lieux publics. N'attendez pas de frapper un mur. Faites-vous vacciner.
Wow. That's the new ad campaign for the vaccine passport here, where they're targeting the young people who haven't done it yet, telling them get your shot before you hit a wall, as in that you're not allowed in somewhere. It's not get that shot so you don't end up in the hospital. At this point, it's get the shot so you can go to the club. Apparently it's working. So here's another thing that you need to know. Okay, he is saying he wants to be clear. They will apply this. It's just going to be delayed by 30 days. He's got his hand up again. He's looking you straight in the eye and saying, this time, I will not budge. The decision was also motivated in part by the support the mandate has received from professional orders, some of which announced recently as recently as Tuesday, they will be suspending the licenses of unvaccinated members. They were going to be suspending the licenses, but now it's moved to they will actually be revoking the licenses of nurses, doctors, and also pharmacists. So yes, they pushed back the ultimatum of the compulsory vaccination. Health Minister Christian Dubé made the decision after 3 sleepless nights as Friday's deadline quickly approached. Last night I slept very well, so it must be a good sign, he told a press conference yesterday. Yes, it's a good sign that he might actually be human. It must have been pretty stressful for him to hold that bad hand for so long. So yes, he decided the risk was too high.
Je t'aime, Vincent. Je pense toujours à toi, puis sincèrement, je pense qu'on a plein de points en commun. Mais il y a des choses tellement plus importantes que toi présentement dans ma vie, comme la voirie.
Ok, mais aussi...
Puis les espaces verts.
Le recyclage, le train de pétanque,
Le nettoyage des rues, les taxes municipales, le parc à chiens, puis
le transport en commun.
Parce que les services municipaux sont au cœur de notre
That's
quotidien.
funny.
Aux élections municipales, allons voter.
Yeah, the discussion, I mean, I just showed you a little bit of that ad, but the discussion has started to move away from COVID and the pandemic into the environment, which I guess we were kind of expecting that was going to happen. I mean, this ad, I guess you don't speak French, but literally what it was a couple in bed, and they're discussing like what's important. What's important is the green spaces and recycling, and like they're all excited about it. That's exactly what people talk about in bed with their lover. Green spaces are so important. Anyhow, yes, they had decided that the risk was too high. And he said, if we continue like that, we're going to hit a wall. I guess just like the unvaccinated people trying to get into the nightclubs. When your plans fall through, don't lose sleep over it. Go back to the drawing board or the altar and come up with a new plan. So this was just a few days after they had announced there were 25,000 unvaccinated. Now it had gone down to 22, which shows you that a lot of people are going to get their shots, but there are still quite a number of them who have not yielded to the pressure. And right now they feel like they've won this round. Our papers are calling it a sad victory for anti-vaccine. It does not just backtrack for those who have received a dose, giving them an extra chance to get the second, but also for staff who have no vaccine protection, who have made no effort. It makes you wonder if the threat was just a bluff. He can say that the ultimatum still holds, that is only postponed for a month. Who will still dare to believe Monsieur Dubé? Mr. Dubé might be holding another bad hand. Of course, the bluff, if there is one, still paid off in part. It must be recognized that there are more than 8,000 healthcare workers who have decided to comply since the announcement of the ultimatum at the end of August. So they're really concerned that since all these people didn't fall for the bluff, maybe they won't fall for the next one. And then what? Unfortunately, all of that solidarity that we learned to have during the pandemic is backfiring. This is the dark side of it, unfortunately. So if you are wondering, oh, who are these caregivers who are refusing vaccines? Well, according to these interviews that the Devoir did with some of them, a number of them gave reasons that had nothing to do with safety concerns about the shot itself. Rather, these are people who, the more you try to force and coerce, the more they lock down. These are people who just cannot tolerate being forced to do something. Like this one here says, I turned it down because they blackmailed me with my work. So this is one who had actually had one dose and made her appointment for a second dose, but hesitates to go just on principle because of the blackmail. Another one who's actually vaccinated by choice also has a problem with the minister's approach. A 50-year-old woman who resigned from the CHSLD said, I wait to get out of the network that does not respect its employees, which is trying to buy with poison premiums. The world is tired of being threatened. A nursing assistant from the Laurentians says she claims the right to ask questions without being called a cuckoo. Before the pandemic, she had received all her vaccines and will be inoculated against COVID-19 at some point. But I don't want it to be forced on me. And then some of them are also afraid of side effects. So I think this is interesting because obviously all people are different. And there are some people whose personality profile is like this. That unlike other people who at a certain point of threats and coercion will yield, there are some people who that just galvanizes and just makes them more resistant. It's just an approach that doesn't work for them. And I guess when it comes to those people, there isn't going to be much that the Minister of Health can do to change their minds. Now, there's another side of this, which is that it's not just a question of healthcare workers digging in their heels and refusing to go along with the program. There's also actually a legal challenge on this vaccine mandate for the healthcare workers. A Montreal-based lawyer filed a safeguard order in court on behalf of healthcare workers to give the court notice that she intends to argue the policy is a violation of workers' rights and is not in the best interest of the Quebecers due to its possible effect on the healthcare system. Okay, so here is more on this at ici Radio-Canada. Compulsory vaccination, a lawyer challenges the government decree. Natalia Manoli is intending to file a safeguard order and an application for judicial review with the Attorney General of Quebec to suspend the application of the decree of the government of Quebec requiring health workers to be vaccinated against COVID-19 while the Superior Court rules on its validity. The decree does not take into account the public interest, pleads Maître Natalia Manoli. Maître Manoli says, this should actually be she is certain that there will be many service failures in the health network the day after October 15th. She claims to have obtained the testimony of 2,000 people in the healthcare sector in this regard. Tens of thousands of people will find themselves without a family doctor. Natalia Manoli believes the healthcare workers should not be vaccinated against their will. She considers that the threat of unpaid leave is contrary to their constitutional right. So we're going to see how this plays out in court and what happens. But, well, there's a legal challenge, and I guess it's going to go up to the highest levels of the legal system. I bet you that Dubé might have a few more sleepless nights as this goes through the court system. Nonetheless, after his flip-flop, he is insisting the new vaccination deadline is firm. So he's saying, oh, you may have won the battle, but you haven't won the war. So I want to give you a little extra information. I mean, this is unofficial, but it's what I've heard on the radio. So what they're doing is, as they've told the public, they're trying to recruit more healthcare staff. They'd actually just been focusing on nurses. They're getting close to having hired 2,000 full-time nurses, or some of them, actually the majority of them, are part-timers who are now going to be adding an extra day or two to move to full-time. They've brought a few retired nurses back. They haven't worked out anything for the orderlies, the housekeeping, the secretaries, the kitchen workers, really anyone else, just those types of employees. But they have another plan. This is what I've heard on the radio. The plan is to hire workers from other countries. So it looks like what they're planning to do is import people from other countries as immigrants to fill an anticipated shortage in the labor market in the healthcare sector. Now, if they are able to do that, then they're going to definitely be able to push this through. If they don't get those people, then with 8 or even just 4% of staff missing, their other plan is to impose this in the areas where the vaccination rate is high enough to not cause a disruption in services, and in the other areas where it hasn't gotten up to where they want it, have some kind of contingency plan, which would mean, I guess, either a delay or allowing the partially vaccinated workers to continue working, or hire people from agencies, which is weird because from what I understand, the nurses in the agencies don't have to be vaccinated. So you fire the ones that are unvaccinated in the public sector, and then you can bring in agency nurses who have no requirement for vaccination. I don't understand how this works, but in spite of the fact that they make it sound like everyone in the healthcare sector has to get vaccinated, there are still jobs out there where you don't have to get it. So it's just public hospitals and clinics and retirement homes and private retirement homes. But apparently all the other places, like a private plastic surgery clinic, for example, this wouldn't apply to them. So some people are just going to move to those areas where they can still work. However, they're planning to suspend their licenses. So at that point, that's going to put more pressure on them, and maybe more people will cave. Now, there's one other part of this decree which has gone through and is now in force, which is that as of Friday, which was yesterday, you need to have the vaccination passport to enter a hospital, a clinic, or a retirement home, unless you're there to get services for yourself. So what this means is you now cannot accompany a family member, including a child who's over the age of 13 or 14. You have a 13 or 14-year-old child who has a medical appointment, you cannot go in with them. You can also not accompany someone as a caregiver. So this is, in my opinion, a bit crazy because there are people who have some very complex needs and they require a caregiver, such as maybe a blind person or a person in a wheelchair who needs, I don't know, some kind of assistance. Whatever it is, there are people who have caregivers that accompany them, not because they feel like it and they just want the company, but because they actually need that person's attendance. So that is going to, I think, cause a problem for disabled people and also for children who are not used to going into these kind of appointments and taking care of their own medical stuff. Maybe the parent will be on the phone, but they won't be there in person. But I could see that being an issue. And what about, if your child is, say, 14 but autistic? Well, you send an autistic 14-year-old alone into the hospital now because the parent can't accompany them. I don't know. I find it a bit strange. I don't know what is this based on. And also, of course, you can't visit anyone. So there is one caveat, which is that this does not apply if you're entering the facility for the purpose of providing a service which the facility doesn't provide. For example, if your parent is in a retirement home and you're going in there to do foot care, which they don't provide, they're supposed to let you in. But I'm willing to guess that the establishments are not going to respect that part of the decree. So that's the update I have for you. It's been pushed off for another month. The resistors are claiming a victory, and this is going to court. So I hope you found that interesting. And thanks again for liking the video and for your support on Patreon. And thank you for checking out the link for my Patriot Supply. And thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.